we will share the recording with you after the event is complete. We welcome you to revisit the content yourself and share it with your networks. We invite your questions. Please look at the Q&A box on your screen. If you think of a question for the speakers at any point, just type it in there and I will pose it during the Q&A portion at the end of the webinar. If we do not get to respond to your questions today due to time constraints, we will develop a FAQ and we'll email it to the attendees with the recording. Please note you can also post your questions anonymously. There is a checkbox in the Q&A box that you can tick. ARAS wishes to remind participants to maintain self-care and follow the Australian Government Department of Health COVID-19 social distancing guidelines and South Australia Police emergency management directions if you're participating in the webinar with other individuals. So let's get started. I would now like to introduce our first speaker, Vicky Stokes from ARAS. Vicky is an advocate with ARAS and she's been with us for the past 15 months. Vicky has worked in the banking industry for 10 years before commencing her career in aged care. Vicky has worked in the aged care now for nearly 30 years and has managed residential facilities, retirement villages, community services, and facilities and property management within all facets of aged care. Vicky is also a civil marriage celebrant and a justice of peace. Hello, Vicky. I'm just going to share the screen and get your PowerPoint. Over to you, Vicky.
Thank you, Sakina, and good morning, everyone. I do hope you all had a lovely Easter and enjoyed that beautiful weather that we had. And my presentation today will cover the following topics: a little bit about ARAS, our key services, what is advocacy, what is retirement advocacy and how do we assist and work with you, how to raise a concern, and safeguards for ageing well and living a positive life. Next slide, thank you. So Aged Rights Advocacy Service. Now we'll just use the acronym ARAS because you get tongue-tied saying Aged Rights Advocacy Service several times. So we have been supporting the older people in South Australia now for 31 years, and we are funded by the Department of Health, National Aged Care Advocacy Program, Office for Ageing Well SA Health and COTA Australia. ARAS is one of the 9 agencies throughout Australia. Our services are offered to those who are 65 years of age and over and 50 years of age and over to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. Next slide, please. As you can see, currently these are our 6 service areas that we provide advocacy to. So we provide advocacy, support, information and education to people living in residential aged care in their own home or receiving aged care services. We also have an elder abuse prevention service which advocates for older people who are experiencing elder abuse or at risk of. The Aged Care System Navigator Trial assists people who need support to access aged care services. Our Aboriginal advocacy provides a culturally sensitive service across all of our programs. And of course, we advocate for residents living in retirement villages, which is our focus today. Thank you. So what is advocacy? So advocacy is the process of us standing beside someone to support them to exercise their rights and to ensure that their voice is heard on all of the important issues that are important to them. An ARAS advocate will work direct with the older person or their legal representative. All matters will be treated confidentially and information is only discussed with other parties with the client's permission. Thank you. So we all have human and civil rights. So the Charter of Aged Care Rights was developed along the World Health Organization. Doesn't matter what your age or what your background or culture, no matter where you live, we all have the same rights. You also have rights when receiving aged care services. You have the right to complain, as well as the right to an advocate to support you at any stage of your complaint. If you would like a copy of the Charter of Aged Care Rights, you can do so by calling ARAS, or you can visit our website on www.sa.agedrights.asn.au. Thank you. So what is Retirement Village Advocacy? So this program supports and assists retirement village residents and or their legal representatives. The program is supported by the Office for Ageing Well, SA Health, and provides advocacy support and assistance for residents of retirement villages in order to assist them to voice their concerns to the village operator or one-on-one resident issues. We could also assist with mediation with Office for Ageing Well, and also to help if you decide you want to proceed to a SACAT hearing, we will help with that process also. We also offer support in relation to the residents' contracts according to the Retirement Villages Act 2016 and the Retirement Villages Regulations 2017. An advocate will only proceed if given permission by the resident after consultation throughout the process with them, and at all times the advocate will ensure that the resident understands where they are within the process. Thank you. So how can we assist you? So on the screen you will see that there's a few dot points, but that's only just some of the areas that we can assist. For example, if you have a fees issue, ongoing or exit fees, and you believe you're being charged incorrectly by the operator, an ARAS advocate can assist you by reviewing your contract and statements and working with you and the operator to clarify the fees and charges. You also may have a maintenance issue, which that seems to be quite a high priority. If there's any delay in organising maintenance or repair work by the operator, an ARAS advocate can assist you in speaking with the operator just to understand the situation and try and resolve the matter in a timely way. One of the issues is bullying and intimidation. If you are experiencing bullying or intimidation from the operator, or it could be a resident on resident, we encourage you to discuss your concerns with the Residents Committee because they are often a great support for you. If the matter is unresolved, you can then contact ARAS and an advocate will help raise your concern with the operator through the dispute resolution policy of the village. Next slide, please. As I've already indicated, we can help resolve issues directly with the village operator, mediation with the retirement village unit, representation at SACAT hearings. But one of the areas that you can also access is supporting you with self-advocacy. Now, self-advocacy, some of you may prefer to raise your own concerns on your own, but we call this service self-advocacy. ARAS advocates can support you with this as well. We have a fact sheet on our website on self-advocacy, which you can access, because a lot of people prefer to do that, but just know that they have the correct information to move forward on their own. Whilst ARAS advocates are not lawyers, we do have a good understanding of the relevant legislation and can assist with referring residents to legal services if required. ARAS also delivers education sessions on retirement village advocacy, and if you are receiving aged care services, your aged care rights, you can request an information session at your village by contacting ARAS on 8232 5377 or on our toll-free number 1800 700 600. These contact details would be displayed at the end of the presentation. Thank you. So a lot of you may understand the process of raising a concern, but just to go through that process, this is what we recommend, that you speak to the operator, you can write to the operator, and you can also lodge your complaint with the Residents Committee. If you feel that this is going to be quite a lengthy issue, you can contact ARAS at any stage. It's probably best that we become involved earlier rather than later. If you're not happy with the outcome from the operator or the Residents Committee, you can then seek mediation through Office for Ageing Well. If you're then still dissatisfied with the outcome from that mediation, you can then lodge an application to SACAT, the South Australian Civil and Administrative Tribunal. So good information, including how to raise concerns, is not only an important safeguard, but it also helps to empower a person and corrects any power imbalances. Thank you. So I'd now like to talk about the Safeguards for Ageing Well program. This is supported and funded by Office for Ageing Well and is about increasing community members to live a positive and ageing well. It is also about a community that is well connected through sharing of information, resources, and learning about safeguards and prevention of elder abuse. Thank you. So we have 4 key messages to living a positive life. And the first one is to stay connected. You stay connected by being involved in your community and strengthening your connections to reduce isolation, especially in these times. Maintain your social contacts. If you had friends before you came into the village, continue to maintain contact with those friends. Develop friendships outside your immediate family. The second point is to stay active. Stay active by participating in community activities, and most retirement villages provide a lot of activities for their residents, and this is a really good way to stay active in your own community. And being active keeps you in touch with the community. The third point is to stay healthy. And obviously the first thing that pops into your mind is, well, we have to eat healthy food. Also, have regular checkups with your GP. And if you're able to do a little bit of exercise, you may have a large village, you may be able to go for a walk around, you may live near the beach, you could walk around there or somewhere safe. And then finally, stay in control. So to stay in control, we are encouraging you to stay in control of your finances. A couple of suggestions is to draw up an advanced care directive, enduring power of attorney. If you've had some circumstances change in recent times, to update your will. And however, but carefully seek independent advice before signing any documents that you're not sure of, because these documents can also be used to abuse you if not done correctly in the future. And then decide on the preferences and let others know your decisions. Talk to your family about what you would like and how you would like to be cared for as you age. Thank you. So as you can see, we have a range of resources that you can order by calling ARAS, and you can also access us on the website, and you can place an order through our publications. Thank you. Now our contact details, as I said previously, there's our phone number 0882325377. Our toll-free number is 1800 700 600. We have an email address and our website. So if you or someone else you know needs advocacy support, information or education support, please call ARAS. Thank you. So thank you for your time this morning. And as Sakina's already given you the process for questions, we will answer those after our presentations. So back to you, Sakina. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. If you have any questions regarding the Retirement Village Advocacy Service that ARAS provides, please use the chat box to put in your questions, and we'll address them towards the end of the webinar. Our next speaker is Vanessa Clark from the Retirement Villages Unit at SA Health. Vanessa is a team leader of the Retirement Village Unit within the Office for Aging Well. The Retirement Village Unit is in the Office for Aging Well. SA Health administers the Retirement Villages Act 2016 and the Retirement Villages Regulations 2017, and promotes and enforces compliance with the legislation, provides general advice and information about retirement villages, and assists in resolving disputes between residents and operators. Let's bring Vanessa up. Hi, Vanessa.
It's working?
Yes.
Hi.
Over to you, Vanessa.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for joining us. What I'll provide some information about today is what is a retirement village, number one, what our office does and what we can assist you with. Ultimately, moving into a retirement village is a big decision. It's a lifestyle choice and often involves large amounts of money. No matter what your eventual decision, if you are fully informed, you are more likely to make the right decision for you. It is not a financial investment. That's one thing that we encourage people to fully understand. It's an investment in lifestyle. So what is a retirement village? It can sometimes be confusing, and there'll be arrangements out there which sound like a retirement village, but perhaps fall under a Residential Parks Act or a rental village and fall under the Residential Tenancies Act. A retirement village is a scheme which is defined under the legislation. So in South Australia, this is defined as a scheme established predominantly for people over 55 who have retired from full-time employment and their spouses, or like with their spouses and domestic partners, under which residences are occupied in pursuance of a lease or a licence. Land that the village sits on must be endorsed as a retirement village. What this endorsement means is that the land must continue to operate as a retirement village. It can only be removed if the land is vacant and no longer used as a village and there are no residents. If someone were to seek to terminate a village while residents are still in occupation, it would have to go through the Supreme Court. We've never seen this happen. So it's very, very difficult to terminate a village, and so that endorsement provides some security for residents. All retirement villages are required to be registered with our office, and there are currently 534 registered retirement villages in South Australia. That consists of almost 19,000 properties with around about 26,500 residents. Villages can range in size from 4 units to pretty much suburbs that are up to 300, 400 units. So with a retirement village, you pay an ingoing contribution. So that's the amount that you pay. It may be market value, it may be some other amount for the right to live in the village. You do not purchase the property. You only purchase the rights to occupy that property. So that ingoing contribution can be refundable, can be a donation entry. It will depend on the village, as there's a wide variety of contractual terms which govern the ingoing contribution. So that contribution provides you with a lease or a license to occupy your residence. You do not own the building and you have a lifetime right to reside in those premises. That contract can only be terminated in accordance with the terms of your contract or the Retirement Villages Act. Most retirement villages here in South Australia, or I shouldn't say most, there's a 60-40 split in South Australia between not-for-profit operators and commercial operators. So there's plenty of diversity out there and different options. So I'll quickly touch on the governing legislation, like what is there, what governs retirement villages, and it is state-based legislation. The object of the Act is to provide a regulatory framework under which there's a balance achieved between the rights and responsibilities of both residents and of operators. The Act regulates the making, content, operation and termination of contracts, but it doesn't regulate the detail within that contract. So the Act does not articulate maximum fees. All it says is any fees and charges that a resident is liable to pay must be included in the contract. So different villages will have a different fee structure. So you need to be aware of that. Providing for proper consultation between residents and operators of villages. The Act also requires dispute resolution processes to be in place. It encourages best practice management standards and ensuring proper disclosure to prospective residents. So that's the legislation that governs retirement villages in South Australia. And we administer that legislation. So I'm in the Office for Ageing Well. We're a state government department. Our office also consists of the Seniors Card Unit, Adult Safeguarding Team, Ageing Policy and Aged Care Strategy teams. So the Retirement Villages Unit is a small team within the broader office. So we administer the legislation. We can provide advice and support to residents and operators, and also other interested parties on the interpretation and the intent of the Act. We maintain the register. As I said, there's 534 villages currently. And the register's an up-to-date database holding detail about every village in the state. So the size, the number of units, who management are, the certificates of title, any exemptions that are held, that sort of thing. We also provide information sessions about the legislation and its operation. So whether that be in a retirement village or as for a group who are considering moving into retirement villages, articulating the sorts of things they need to be aware of. We also provided dispute resolution assistance between residents and operators. Our office do not become involved in resident to resident disputes. The legislation doesn't cover that. We offer mediation services and we also do compliance monitoring and enforcement. So ensuring compliance with the requirements of the Act. I suppose one of the biggest thing is, I would say, be aware of when you're shopping around, ask lots of questions. Ask residents who live in a village how it feels to live in the village. Does the operator communicate well with you? Fees and charges are not regulated. This is governed by the terms of the contract. So if you narrow down your search and you're considering a particular village, you will receive a disclosure statement which articulates all fees and charges before you move in, once you're living in the village, and when you leave the village, as well as the contract. A contract can be 80 pages or more. We strongly encourage you to spend the money to get good legal advice on the terms of that contract. discuss your move with family and friends, understand, I can't stress it strongly enough to understand the terms of your contract and what the obligations are on you and also on the operator. That legal advice may seem expensive, but it is worth it. And ensure any verbal agreements when you're shopping around and you narrow your search down, any verbal agreements, make sure they're included in the contract. There's nothing worse than trying 18 months later to try and address a promise that was made in the sales process. And yeah, I would say a successful village, or the most successful villages that we visit are those where residents and the operator and the management team acknowledge there's a partnership. It's a joint thing. You have an ongoing relationship and they work together to make the village an amazing place to live. I think I've covered most things, unless there are questions, which we will certainly welcome. Sakina?
Thank you, Vanessa. I have a couple of questions, and I would encourage people on the webinar to take this opportunity to ask questions. Use the chat box or the Q&A box that is on your screen to ask those questions. Now, I have a question for Vicky. Marketing fees. That seems to be a recurring issue when residents approach us. How should residents work that out?
Yes, we do get a lot of requests about the marketing fee, and what we can't really do anything about it once a contract's signed. But what we recommend to people coming into the village for the very first time is that they start from the back, from the exit, and then move to occupation, because you can negotiate the exit when you're coming in. So a lot of the marketing fees are 3% or 2.5%, 2%. It's still quite high, and you don't ever really know what that marketing includes. Does it include advertising? Does it only include sales? So if you negotiate at the coming into the contract with the outgoing marketing fee at that time with the operator, then you won't have the issues that a lot of people are having when they leave the villages now.
Thank you, Vicky. Vanessa, you've emphasized on contracts, and that again seems to be a big concern, and Vicky just mentioned that as well. So I know you mentioned that in your presentation, but if you had to emphasize some 3 or 2 points on why contracts are essential, and if you could elaborate on that as well.
I think it's, if a resident understands the contract that they've entered into, and they understand all of those fees and charges, because there are a lot, whether if you're moving into a big village with all the bells and whistles and bowling greens and swimming pools and libraries and function centres, whether you use those facilities or not, you pay for them. So the contract very clearly says what it is that you pay for and when you pay for it. So it's, I suppose, if people are fully aware of those sorts of things that may appear to come out of left field if they don't read their contract properly, you know, having that understanding and that acknowledgement that, yes, I understood that this is what I was responsible for. The contract provides the detail in relation to pretty much everything that occurs in a retirement village. When you enter, when meetings are held, how they're held, when they're held, like the annual meeting of residents, the financial reporting back. An operator has to account to residents of the fees that they've collected through the year, How have they been spent? How have they spent those recurrent charges? And the contract provides the detail as to what those fees can be spent on. So that's why I stress that people need to understand the terms of their contract. When we receive complaints or disputes, in one of the first things we'll say is, what does your contract say? Mm-hmm. Because there's the overarching legislation, but as I say, the detail is in that contract. So being fully aware.
We have a question from Cheryl. Vanessa, to you. Is there a 1 to 5 star system for retirement villages? And nursing homes?
No. No, not that there certainly isn't. And maybe, I have seen Google reviews, but there isn't actually a ranking system. There is a voluntary accreditation system, which some operators will, have registered to become accredited and to show and to prove their commitment to best practice and but accreditation isn't compulsory, and unfortunately there isn't a star system. So if there is a retirement village that you're considering, as much as the salespeople are very good, I would encourage you to ask questions of people who live there. They're the ones who will tell you what it's like to live in the village. So speak to the residents committee if there is one. Be really cheeky and go and knock on someone's door and ask them, what's it like to live here? That's what I would recommend.
Thank you, Vanessa. Vicky, just a question for you. You touched based on self-advocacy. Can you explain further of how ARAS can assist with self-advocacy?
Yeah, so we can support you to ask the right questions, how to do it in a proactive way, and to encourage you to be positive in your questioning. So we'll stand beside you and help you through the process, but you will be able to go to the operator or to the residents committee or to another resident, and with the information that we provide, that we help to provide you with, to give you strength, I guess that's the right word, to self-advocate for yourself, because people are quite reluctant at times to go to an operator because they're scared, or they're, it's all how they think that someone may approach them. So if they speak to us, we're able to alleviate some of the concerns, then it gives them the strength to go forward and ask the questions of an operator. But just ring us and we will certainly provide that help towards self-advocacy.
Thank you, Vicky. Again, we still have time. Please pose your questions in the Q&A box, and we can get those answered for you. Vanessa, if you had to summarize and give 3 takeaways, what would those be?
Okay, I think I'm good now. I would say for a prospective resident, it is critical to get advice on your contract and understand it. If you have sought advice, if you understand the terms of that contract and you decide to proceed, then you've made the right decision for you. Discuss that with your family, because eventually when you leave the village, it'll be the family that will be dealing with the handback of the property. Keep in mind, you do not buy the building. This is not a real estate transaction. You only purchase the license to occupy a home. So depending on the operator, you may not be able to make changes to those premises, or the only changes that can be made are with agreement by the operator, and you may then have to remove them and restore the property back to what it was when you leave. Yeah, I can't stress enough, get legal and financial advice. Seriously, that's the biggest takeaway, I would think. And understand your contract. And yeah, if, you know, there are some wonderful villages out there, there really are. And I think one of the biggest problems comes about where people have either unrealistic expectations of what the village will deliver to them, or they don't understand what their obligations are, because these are independent living, and you know, disputes and, you know, niggles do occur, and it is close living. So just to be, yeah, sure of what your rights and your responsibilities are within that village.
Absolutely, Vanessa. I think spending those dollars at the start for legal advice will go a long way. You know, while you're staying at the retirement village. Vicky, what would be your 3 takeaways from the presentation?
I would say don't ever sit on something that's really niggling and worrying you, because it can be resolved by a quick phone call to ARAS, because we do take information calls. You know, if we can provide you with just some outline, it might be just to review a certain part of your contract and then give you just some support to how to go forward, but contact us and we can help immediately. Because worrying only makes the issue grow larger and larger, because it becomes bigger and bigger in your mind. So contacting us, and I think participate in your village, know what's going on in your village, so that you can be a real part of the village, so that you do have confidence if there is an issue to bring it up. Never leave it behind. Go to the residents committee. That's always a good source of information. If they are unable to help you, you could bring it up at a general meeting, but always communicate. I think verbal communication, if you don't feel comfortable verbalizing it, writing it, but talking to others in the village, I think that's really helpful also. But just remember that we're always around, we're always available, even just for information.
Thank you, Vicky. So at this point, we will end the webinar. And what I'm just about going to do is start a poll. And if you could complete the poll and provide your feedback, that would be appreciated. As you can see, the poll is up now on your screen. Thank you. I'll just give them 30 seconds or so to complete and submit their feedback. Okay. Thank you again for joining us today. Thank you to Vanessa and Vicky for presenting and taking the time to do this presentation today. If you have any questions, please feel free to call ARAS on 82325377 or our toll-free 1800 700 600. And of course, if you have any questions with the Retirement Village Unit, please feel free to contact them as well. Thank you for your time today and enjoy the rest of your day. Good day, everyone.